Hey guys, tonight we dive into a story buried so deep you probably won't survive a solo spelunking trip down these tunnels. Kidding, of course, but it is that wild. You shuffle into an ancient Han monastery courtyard, the cool stone beneath your feet humming with echoes of centuries. The lantern light flickers, casting dancing shadows on weathered pillars as sandalwood incense drifts through the air like a ghostly welcome committee. You can almost taste the rice wine left from evening prayers, faintly sweet, with a hint of pine. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, drop a comment below telling me where you're tuning in from and what time it is there. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. As you lean forward, you can almost hear the quill scratching across parchment, delivering that fateful imperial edict. It was the year 184 CE, the Yellow Turban Rebellion erupting across the realm, and Emperor Ling's court trembled at the idea of sacred Buddhist teachings falling into rebel hands. Under cover of darkness, a courier slipped through palace gates, scroll in hand, sweat beading on his forehead like a monk's prayer beads. The decree was simple, yet shocking. Han Dynasty Carpenters were to carve hidden passageways beneath select monasteries, labyrinthine routes to spirit shield the sutras from warlords and bandits alike. You picture the artisans gathering scraps of bamboo and rare camphor wood, whispering among themselves about the uncanny nature of their assignment. You step closer to the monastery's main hall fingertips, brushing against its cool, carved columns. Local legend says artisans used an adhesive concoction so bizarre, made from boiled snake skins and rice starch, that panels would only open to a secret tapping sequence like the password on a high-tech safe. Strange fact, these dragon-glued joints could hold steadfast for decades without a single nail, a technique nearly lost to time. You run your finger along a seam in the stone floor where legend holds a hidden latch, lies waiting. Every brush of dust against the crevice feels electric, as if the walls themselves are alive with anticipation. Outside, you can almost hear the distant rumble of the Yellow River's floodwaters, another popular catastrophe that haunted Han engineers, forcing them to innovate floodgates and levees. But inside these monastic walls, priorities shifted from water control to spiritual preservation. You squint at the flickering torchlight, picturing carpenters chanting in unison an ancient ASMR ritual of hammer taps, echoing like metronomes in the dark. Every strike chips away at the old panels, creating secret alcoves where monks could slip away when danger approached. You probably won't survive if you decide to explore without a guide that's policy, my friend. But it's tempting, isn't it? You inch toward a stone block that seems just a shade darker than its neighbors. The rough texture scrapes at your fingertips, and you press gently, half expecting a trapdoor. Instead, you hear a soft click, the world tilting as a section of wall slides silently inward. A cool breeze rushes out, carrying a whiff of damp earth and mold, the unmistakable scent of a corridor long sealed. Historians still debate whether that initial imperial order was secretly penned by the eunuchs or quietly sanctioned by the Empress Dowager to protect her favored clergy. This uncertainty has fueled heated academic dinners for centuries, with scholars sipping tea and throwing bamboo chopsticks at each other, figuratively speaking, of course. You imagine those debates playing out in modern lecture halls, whiteboards scrawled with half-legible characters, as participants argue about whether these tunnels served more as espionage channels or as clandestine refuges. Your heart thumps in your chest as you duck under the threshold, the ceiling low enough that you have to crouch like a weary traveler in a countryside cave. The torchlight you brought, borrowed from the custodian, casts trembling shadows on the rough-hewn walls. Every carved crack whispers of secrets sworn to silence, hidden scriptural scrolls, perhaps even ancient alchemical recipes believed capable of curing plagues. You press onward, mindful of the loose flagstone underfoot that might jolt you into a secret pit-trap engineer-crafted booby traps so sly that only the original builders would recognize the pattern. Along the corridor, you feel the cool dampness seep into your clothes. A faint heartbeat seems to echo from the stone itself, the slow pulse of history leaning in to share its tale. You can almost taste the mustiness of age, like a forgotten book left too long on a shelf, its pages yearning to breathe. Each step you take thuds softly against an earthen floor, and you listen for any hint of movement above footsteps chanting monks or the distant trampling of horses from an approaching army. You pause at an intersection marked only by a small lotus carving, its petals worn but still discernible. The artisans etched these symbols as markers of bizarre yet elegant code that only the initiated could decipher. Few people know that lotus petals were also used as secret smell markers, each color infused with a different oil, so that monks could navigate blindfolded, trusting their noses over their eyes. Now, that's a strange fact. You can tuck into your next trivia night, right? You cast a sideways glance at the corridor's branching path and feel a thrill of choice go left toward the rumored library vault or right toward that hidden bell tower, said to signal imminent danger. Each direction promises a whisper of the unknown. You swallow hard adrenaline, mixing with the faint aroma of incense that somehow wafts down here despite the sealed doors. It's a sensory reminder that the spiritual and the structural intertwine in this subterranean world. Above, or in the previous part, you might recall that these halls were more than mere escape routes. They were living memory, preserving fragile knowledge under the monastery's foundation. And as you inch forward, it dawns on you every grain of dust, every carved groove is part of a silent narrative passed down through centuries of whispered devotion and imperial intrigue. The weight of that legacy presses gently on your shoulders, a comforting reminder that you're merely the latest traveler in a lineage of curious seekers. You take a deep breath, letting the cool, dank air fill your lungs. The faint echo of your exhale mingles with the distant drip of water, a lullaby of sorts for those restless spirits rumored to wander these halls. And as you move deeper into the darkness, the monastery's hidden heart beats around you, eager to reveal its next secret. You step out of the hidden corridor and back into the monastery's candlelit corridors, but instead of finding calm, you're met with a flurry of hurried whispers and clattering wooden sandals. Monks in simple gray robes scuttle past you, faces pale as rice paper, clutching prayer beads like lifelines. A sense of urgency crackles in the air, like someone spilled tea on a painstakingly inked sutra. And now everyone's scrambling to blot out the stain before it spreads. You trail behind Brother Liang, who's muttering about rebels at the northern pass in the same breath he's tallying incense sticks. You've read about the collapse of the Great Wall watch stations after the Red Eyebrows Rebellion of 18 CE, a popular uprising that rattled the Han court and left frontier outposts untenanted. Now, decades later, echoes of that chaos still reverberate through these mountains. Bandits and warlords carve out territories like chefs slicing vegetables, snatching villages and sacred relics alike. You can almost taste the metallic tang of fear in the air, thick as the camphor smoke that drifts from altar to ceiling. A tremor of unease runs through your spine, like realizing you've forgotten your first pet's name during a meditation chant. Below your hand, the stone floor pulses with the memory of the secret latch you just closed. Remember that crocodile poop-infused glue they used? Well, now those panels aren't just clever tricks. They're lifelines for every monk who prays here. You glance at a weathered pillar, its intricate carvings of lotus petals still familiar to you. The very same carved petals that once served as scent markers are now guiding terrified men through dizzying passage networks racing to safety. Strange fact, the scent oils used in those petals were actually distilled from magnolia blossoms and bat guano, a combination that smells suspiciously like a musty library, comforting if you're the studying type, horrifying if you're a gauntlet runner dodging marauders. A distant boom rattles the rafters, probably someone dropping metal ornaments in the storage hall. But in moments like these, your mind conjures images of bamboo torches flickering on distant ridges as raiding parties advance. You press your ear against the cool stone wall, hoping to catch a hint of hoofbeats or shouted commands. Instead, you hear the faintest flapping, like a startled raven uprising from its cage. Monks believe ravens carry messages between worlds. Here, it feels like scandalous gossip escaping through a crack in a servant's boot. You share a smirk with Brother Liang, who whispers, "You think they'll ride bats next." You suppress a laugh. Monastic life is serious business after all, but you're not above a little levity. In the makeshift war room, a repurposed scripture library, 3 elder monks crowd around a rough-hewn table, strewn with ink-stained scrolls. Their brows furrow deeper than the wrinkles on a gourd, and one of them taps a long, slender bone brush against the tabletop like a restless metronome. You edge closer to read the hastily scrawled map, red ink marks possible breach points in the outer wall, while blue ink traces the hidden passageways you explored. There's even a crude sketch of that secret bell tower you saw earlier, complete with notes on when to ring it, 3 rapid peals, followed by 2 slow ones. It's a rudimentary Morse code Han style. As you lean over the table, the elder monk named Shun locks eyes with you. "You must warn the northern outpost," he says, voice low and gravelly. "They think the rebellion was quelled months ago, but we see footprints in the snow by the eastern gate." You nod, feeling the weight of responsibility settle on your shoulders. This isn't some bedtime fable. It's a matter of life and death. A modern comparison flashes through your mind. It's like realizing your favorite streaming service has been down for hours, and you were halfway through the season finale. Panic, right? You gather a small satchel, a slender bone chisel, a pinch of camphor oil for lanterns, and a rolled-up charcoal sketch of the corridor junctions. Strange little life hacks passed down over generations. If you rub the chisel with a drop of camphor oil, it'll slide silently through wood joints without a squeak. Historians still debate whether that trick was devised by carpenters or stolen from local smugglers who used it to unbox tax collectors' strongboxes. Either way, it's the key, literally, to moving unseen. Footsteps approach, heavy, unhurried, the kind that belong to an official, rather than a marauding thug. You peek around the corner to see Commander Huo, a stern-faced officer from the Imperial Guard striding toward the hidden door you discovered. He's flanked by 2 wired lantern bearers, their lanterns swinging so gently they'd make a toddler's lullaby jealous. You step forward, bowing low. "Commander," you whisper. His steely gaze lifts to you, eyebrow cocked. "You're the one who closed that panel, aren't you?" he asks, without preamble. You nod heart, fluttering like a trapped butterfly against ribs. He nods curtly. "Good. We can't risk traitors using those passages." You swallow, noting the slight tremor in his hand as he folds the map and tucks it under his arm. The air between you thickens, no sarcasm or jokes here, just raw tension. This is the kind of moment that makes great ASMR, that whispery heartbeat in your ear right before a jump scare in a haunted mansion tour video. Before you can respond, a sudden clamor erupts at the entrance, frightened novices, wide-eyed and pale, slamming the outer gate shut. The clang reverberates through the cloister like a giant gong, announcing the end of calm. For a heartbeat, time stalls, candle flames sputter, dust motes swirl in the lantern glow, and your breath catches in your throat. Then all at once, shouts of "Bandits, bandits" ring out, and your satchel strap slips off your shoulder as you dash toward the hidden door behind you. You thrust the door open and slip into the darkness, the familiar cool walls embracing you like an old friend. Above, or in the previous part, you sensed the monastery's secret corridors. As curiosities, now their urgent escape routes, lifelines carved by hands long returned to the earth. Every carved dragon scale and lotus petal underfoot feels alive, guiding you through the labyrinth like a protective custodian. As you sprint past alcoves and tunnels, you catch glimpses of fellow monks forming a ragtag line behind you, faces illuminated by flickering lanterns. The thick stone walls swallow the panic-muffling cries and the distant clatter of panic-stricken villagers seeking shelter. You grip the bone chisel, its camphor-scented handle warm in your palm, a talisman reminding you that ingenuity can outwit brute force. A sudden gust of wind gusts through a hidden vent, a remnant of ancient ventilation engineering used to keep the corridors breathable. Centuries ago, engineers designed these channels to circulate fresh mountain air. But now that very wind carries the faint echo of battle horns and the thrill of the unknown. You tilt your head, letting the breeze tousle your hair as you whisper to yourself, "I guess history really does repeat. Like that time, the paper mills caught fire and the court panic spread faster than gossip at a tea house. 3 sharp peals ring out from the hidden bell tower above a signal you'll later learn means all clear danger past. But for now, it's just another heartbeat in the darkness, urging you onward deeper into the monastery's secret veins. The corridor splits again, and you glance back at the line of monks hesitating behind you. You offer a reassuring nod, the closest thing to a joke you can muster right now. Don't worry, there's no quiz on tunnel architecture later. Just follow me. Your footfalls echo softly as you lead them toward a concealed stairwell winding upward, away from danger and toward the serenity of prayer halls untouched by war. Each step feels like moving through history's bloodstream, carrying precious cargo of faith and tradition. The walls, once silent witnesses to artistic craftsmanship, now resonate with the living pulse of the monks who depend on these tunnels for salvation. And as you ascend into the dim light of a hidden prayer chamber, you realize the true purpose of these passageways, not just espionage. not just refuge, but a testament to human creativity under pressure, a reminder that even amid chaos, quiet ingenuity can carve pathways to hope. You press your palm against the cool stone wall, feeling the subtle groove your fingers traced in the previous part, and lean in to examine that oddly smooth seam under the moonlight, filtering through a high window. The air here feels charged, like right before a summer storm rolls in, thick with moisture and possibility. Above or in the previous part, you've already sensed the monastery walls breathe history, but now you're zeroing in on something different, a panel so perfectly flush it might have been designed by a master illusionist. You crouch, balancing on your toes like a stealthy cat, and let your fingertips glide along a hidden notch carved into the stone. Your pulse quickens, hammering against your ribs like a distant drum, signaling a forbidden festival. With a soft exhale, you tap the groove twice, then once an almost playful rhythm like sending a secret handshake to the wall itself. A faint click resonates under your knuckles, and the panel shifts inward on silent hinges, revealing a narrow 5-inch gap. A cool rush of stale air escapes, carrying hints of polished bamboo and candle smoke that have lingered undisturbed for centuries. Strange fact, some monks believe these hidden doorways were built using a lacquer made from cycad nuts and powdered jade, a concoction so rare that only imperial artisans could replicate it perfectly. Your nostrils flare as you inhale the sweet, cloying aroma, comforting yet uncanny, like the scent of an old family photo you haven't looked at in years. Bracing yourself, you slip one shoulder through the opening. The corridor beyond is barely taller than your chest, forcing you to duck and shuffle forward in tight, deliberate steps. The floor is uneven, composed of sunken flagstones, softened by decades of footsteps, or maybe centuries, depending on which timeline you trust. Historians still debate whether these hidden passages were conceived purely for refuge or if they doubled as clandestine transport routes for imperial envoys carrying sensitive orders. You imagine those envoys crouching here, sending encoded messages through tunnels that linked monasteries all along the Silk Road, the very route Zhang Qian pioneered in 130 BCE, connecting China to distant Western kingdoms. That legendary journey ushered in an era of cultural exchange, yet these subterranean halls feel like the Silk Road's shy, secret sibling, just as vital, but far more discreet. Your hand ghosts along the rough-hewn wall, tracing faint tool marks of chisels and handmade wedges. The carvings are austere, no lotus petals or dragon scales here, just the bare elegance of form and function. Yet in a small alcove, you discover a delicate etching, a stylized phoenix rising from billows of incense smoke, its wings spread wide in triumphant flight. An archaeologist once told you these motifs were believed to ward off malevolent spirits that might lurk in darkness, an odd marriage of artistry and superstition. You trace the feathers with your fingertip, each one worn smooth by centuries of monkish hands. The etching seems to glow in the torchlight you finally produce from your satchel, a simple wick dipped in camphor oil flame, dancing like a tiny sun in your palm. Ahead, the passage bends sharply to the right, and you wriggle through, following the subtle slope that hints at an upward incline. The air grows warmer, as though breathing the monastery's hidden furnace, and you can almost hear the muffled chants of evening prayer floating through distant vents. A low hum vibrates through the earth, reminiscent of the meteorite impact that rocked Mount Tai in 185 CE, a catastrophic event that toppled pagodas and sent shockwaves through the kingdom, you smiled to yourself. Because if these monks had known about meteorites back then, they'd probably have carved a secret escape route inside the impact crater too. Modern comparison, it's like discovering a hidden folder on your phone labeled Top Secret, except this folder is real dusty and alive under your feet. Navigating by touch and by memory of above-ground landmarks, you reach a tiny landing where the ceiling narrows to just over your head. Here, a shallow basin carved into the stone once held water for ritual cleansing, though it's bone dry now. As you peer inside, you notice the bottom is inscribed with a single character, an Anmenan peace. The irony is rich, a sanctuary for peace buried deep under walls bristling with fear and rebellion. Strange fact, during an 8th century restoration, a monk reportedly sealed a small prayer scroll inside this basin, hoping to protect it during the An Lushan rebellion. The scroll vanished soon after, and scholars still debate whether it was removed by caretakers or swept away in later renovations. Whatever the truth, you can't help but marvel at the layers of human intention embedded even in the smallest niches. You shift the torch upward and catch sight of wooden rafters overhead, bent bamboo poles tied with raw silk rope bound together like a giant hairpin. Their craftsmanship reminds you of Hangzhou's famed Song Dynasty Carpentry, 6 centuries later, though these supports predate them by hundreds of years. The bamboo gleams like polished alabaster under the lamplight, and you can almost hear the whisper of silk fibers rubbing against each other like fine Chino ships trading secrets in the dark. You take a moment to run your fingers along one of the rafters, feeling the slight give of the bamboo's tensile strength. It's comforting, oddly enough, to sense that centuries-old engineering still holds firm. A solitary toe step away, you find the terminus of the corridor, a small chamber, no larger than a coffin. Its walls lined with ancient clay jars, sealed with wax. You crouch to inspect them, noticing decorative seals painted in vermilion, depicting stylized clouds. Each jar once stored aromatic herbs, star anise, saffron, even rare myrrh, imported from distant India via the maritime silk route. The pungency of star anise still clings to the clay like a ghost of flavor suspended in time. You uncork one of the jars just a crack, and an amber mist wafts out, carrying the warmth of distant spice bazaars to your nose. You straighten up, letting the jar slip back into its nook, and sense a profound stillness here that contrasts sharply with the frantic rush above. The monastery's heartbeat feels slower down here, measured in the slow drip of condensation rather than the hurried clatter of sandals on wooden floors. You pocket a sliver of jade that had fallen from one of the jar lids, small enough to slip into your palm unnoticed, but heavy with the weight of hidden stories. With a deep, satisfying breath, you pivot and prepare to retrace your steps back to the main tunnels. Every carved notch, every polished seam pulses with purpose, reminders that the artisans who built this sanctuary designed not just stone and wood, but hope itself. And as you squeeze back through the camouflage door into the moonlit halls, you carry with you the thrill of first discovery, an electric jolt that promises every secret in these hidden monastery passageways is still waiting to be unveiled. You slip through the hidden panel and emerge into a low-ceilinged chamber lit by a single half-melted candle, its wax pooling like slow-moving lava across an oil-slicked stone slab. The air is thick with the scent of camphor and ink, mingling like old friends who've lost track of time. Monks and master carpenters huddle around a waist-high table, their heads bowed over unfurled scrolls of silk, so fine it almost floats on the table's surface. Above, or in the previous part, you felt the hush of those corridors. But here you feel something more electric. The hush of conspiratorial design, like joining a secret club whose password smells faintly of sandalwood. You lean in, squinting at the sprawling diagrams drawn in meticulous brushstrokes. One giant scroll shows the monastery's floor plan, grand halls, silent libraries, and hidden tunnels all woven together like an elaborate silk tapestry. Over it, a smaller sheet maps out dozens of interlocking wooden panels, each marked with mysterious symbols, a coiled dragon here, a blossoming lotus there. Carpenters murmur in low tones about tangential joins and reverse mortise techniques, as if discussing the flavor notes of fine tea. You can almost taste the bitterness of their concentration. A master carpenter named Li Yong dips his brush into pine resin ink, then traces a faint line connecting a library alcove to a storage vault 2 corridors away. He taps his brush against his wrist, then looks up at you with a crooked smile. "You know," he says, voice hushed, "if these plans were laid out on your phone, you'd need 3-factor authentication and facial recognition to open them." You stifle a laugh, imagining a smartphone app requiring a thumbprint and a secret knock seems absurd, yet only slightly more outlandish than a camouflaged stone door in a 2,000-year-old monastery. On the far side of the table, Brother Hui leans over another scroll, whispering to a young apprentice about the importance of concealment. "See these lines?" he murmurs, tapping a slender bamboo stylus against the silk. They curve here to mimic the natural grain of the wood, so no one above will suspect. He gestures at a decorative frieze that, once built, will disguise an entrance behind a row of painted chrysanthemums. You trace the curves with your fingertip, marveling at how art and subterfuge dance together like yin and yang in perfect equilibrium. A lantern flickers and nearly goes out, prompting a chorus of panicked whispers, "Not again." You scrawl a mental note to avoid holding your breath whenever candles are involved. Strange fact, legend says these monks once mixed powdered mica into their paint, so that under moonlight the designs on the walls shimmered like ghostly water disguising the scroll-lined doorways beneath. It must have looked like a mirage at dusk, dazzling intruders into thinking the wall itself was alive. You shiver, half from the thrill of the idea and half from the slight draft that seeps through a barely concealed crack. Beyond the table you glimpse a half-built wooden mock wall propped against rough-hewn support beams. Carpenters have assembled it hiccup by hiccup, testing panel alignments and hinge tolerances. They tap and jiggle the boards, examining how they click or don't into place. Brother Wu jokes that this is the Han Dynasty version of quality control. Except you can't just send a dissatisfied customer a replacement part next day. You have to hope the next rebel raid holds off long enough for you to fix it. The others laugh softly, mindful of the candle's flame, flickering perilously close to the parchment scrolls. From a corner shelf, you retrieve a rolled blueprint sealed with red wax. Breaking the seal releases a crisp pop, as satisfying as peeling the wrapper off a new scroll of rice paper. Inside, you find layered schematics, the primary tunnel network in black ink, with emergency escape routes overlaid in vermilion and hidden niches, marked in charcoal. A faint notation in the corner reads, UB, suggesting imperial approval, or at least the rumor of it. Above, or in the previous part, you encountered mystery at every turn. Here, you sense that mystery codified in dozens of curved pathways and false walls, each promising refuge or deception. You spread the maps across a wooden plank, ensuring that candlelight hits each corner without casting giant shadows that would skew perception. Then, with a grin, you imagine how modern architects would handle this. Probably wear hard hats, use laser levels, and curse about budget overruns. In contrast, these craftsmen rely on the keen eye of an elder monk, a bristle hair brush, and the steady hand of someone who's memorized every notch in the stone corridors. Historians still debate whether these plans were drawn directly by imperial carpenters or copied from secret prototypes used in palace fortresses, each camp so entrenched that even contemporary scholars argue over who lifted ideas from whom. A sudden breeze stirs the candle flame, and shadows dance across the blueprints like phantoms joining the council. You lean closer to watch as Li Yong scores tiny holes along a curved line, ventilation shafts. He explains, meant to carry whispers of alarm from the hidden bell towers to distant chambers. It's a bit like the MIMS microphones on your phone, except these shafts are carved into solid rock and bamboo, rather than etched onto silicon. You nod appreciatively, glancing at the delicate network of vents drawn in faint gray lines. The room grows quiet as each craftsman checks their own calculations. An apprentice holds a measuring rod to a stone column, counting off increments by tapping the rod against the floor 1, 2, 3, while humming a familiar devotional tune. It's soothing, in a way like the background track on your favorite ASMR channel. Strange fact, centuries later, these exact measurements were found to align with certain lunar cycles, suggesting a hidden layer of astrology in the design. You tilt your head, wondering if monks whispered about feng shui as they designed escape routes, orienting doors to face auspicious directions, so that even fleeing, they would carry cosmic blessings. You nod toward a narrow scroll cabinet against the far wall. It contains smaller sketches showing joinery details, dovetail locks, hidden pins, and slender bamboo wedges that expand when soaked in water, jamming tight and sealing the passage from prying eyes. Pulling a carved wedge from your satchel, you press it into a mock panel, watching as it swells slightly in the humid air, securing the plank in place. It works flawlessly, no squeak, no creak, just effortless concealment. You grin, picturing a bandit frantically prying at the wall while the door behind him remains motionless as a mountain. A gentle clang echoes from somewhere deeper in the monastery, as if reminding you that this whole operation is a race against time. The red eyebrows rebellion may have faded from memory above, but its legacy persists here in whispered orders and secret sketches. You roll up the scrolls, careful to preserve every crease, and tuck them into a hidden sleeve beneath your robe, the same sleeve you've been using since the discovery in the first part. It's become your signature move, slide, conceal, and move on. As you step away, Li Yong clasps your shoulder, his eyes gleaming with pride. Tomorrow, at first light, he says we'll raise the main beams and test the load-bearing capacity. Bring your satchel. You nod, feeling a surge of camaraderie. The flickering candlelight casts your elongated shadow on the wall, a silhouette of a lone YouTube host turned secret architect. And as you exit, rolling the final scroll under your arm, you realize these whispered blueprint plans are more than instructions for hidden corridors. They're a testament to trust between monks, carpenters, and the emperor himself, all bound by brushstrokes and silent oaths. Each line on those silk scrolls carries the weight of devotion, artistry, and survival, a legacy you're privileged to glimpse one candlelit sketch at a time. You step into a narrow side chamber where the scent of aged wood mingles with the sharp zing of camphor oil like opening a cedar-lined humidor, to find it stocked with menthol cough drops. Above, or in the previous part, you felt the thrill of hidden chambers. Here, that thrill becomes tactile as you reach for a length of bamboo piping crudely stored in a corner. It's not ordinary bamboo, though. This is Ju bamboo, prized for its tensile strength and lightweight resilience. You hold it up to the flickering lantern light and trace the faint longitudinal grooves that give each stalk its characteristic flexibility. Strange fact, some carpenters claimed this bamboo was harvested during a full moon, believing lunar tides made it impervious to cracking, an early example of moon phase woodworking and the original carpenter's folk remedy. Your fingers dance along the cool surface as you recall a popular event from decades later, the invention of paper in 105 CE by Kai Lun, which revolutionized record-keeping in the Han court. Yet here, long before monks scrawled sutras on paper, these artisans were already pioneering material science underground. You tap the bamboo like you're testing a flute, and it sings back with a hollow timbre as if greeting long-lost kin. You tuck a short segment under your arm, keen to test its joinery utility later. Next, you turn to a stacked pile of camphor wood planks, pale fragrant and almost luminescent in the firelight. The wood smells like a pharmacist's dream cool and slightly minty, warding off insects and molding as effectively as any chemical repellent. You break off a sliver and crush it between your fingers. A fine white powder puffs out, tickling your nostrils. Ancient monastery caretakers believed this camphor essence doubled as an air purifier, keeping hidden chambers breathable for centuries. You snort softly, making a mental note to avoid rubbing that powder under your eyes. Something tells you it'd be worse than accidentally signing up for 3 months of nose hair waxing. You kneel by a low workbench, its surface scarred by countless chisels and gouges, and pick up a small wooden peg carved from hardy oak. The peg's diameter is less than your pinky, yet it feels unbelievably sturdy. This is the clandestine swell key, a clever joinery hack where the peg once inserted into a mortise expands when moistened, locking 2 wooden panels together without nails or metal. Imagine an IKEA cabinet that assembles itself tighter when you spill tea on it. Brilliant, but probably a product recall waiting to happen in modern times. Historians still debate whether this swell key trick was adapted from naval shipbuilders, or if Han carpenters invented it independently, a debate as heated as whether pineapple belongs on pizza. You rise and pace toward a display of tools, thin-bladed scrapers, flat chisels, and bone awls. Each tool is customized to a specific joinery method. Some chisels have angled teeth for teasing bamboo strips into interlocking teeth. Others are polished smooth for planing camphor boards without splintering. You lift a bone awl etched with tiny ticks marking each centimeter and admire its craftsmanship. The awl's handle is wrapped in silk thread dyed with safflower red, a splash of color hidden in the gloom. Yeah, it reminds you of a fine calligraphy brush, but here its strokes carve channels for secret wiring ventilation shafts disguised as decorative grooves. Your attention returns to the workspace as an apprentice wheels in a smoking brazier, its coals glowing like embers in a dragon's throat. Master carpenter Li Yong uses the heated brazier to temper camphor planks, bending them gently over a wooden mold to create subtle curves that mirror the monastery's vaulted ceilings. The scent intensifies the perfect reminder that these materials weren't chosen just for strength, but for sensory harmony. Walking through these halls feels like stepping inside a giant incense box. You lean closer, feeling the heat ripple on your cheek, and quip silently, "If IKEA had smell-o-vision, this is what their premium showroom would smell like." You crouch to study a half-assembled frame where mortise and tenon joints interlock at impossibly tight tolerances. A monk hands you a slender bamboo wedge infused with a paste made from rice starch-crushed mica and pulverized deer antler. You tap it into the joint. The bamboo compresses against the camphor wood so snugly that the seam disappears entirely. It's like watching a magician slide a playing card into a sleeve, only the card is a wedge and the sleeve is a centuries-old hidden door. Strange fact, some of these paste recipes included ground pearls to give seams an opalescent sheen under torchlight, a trick so subtle it convinced potential intruders the wall was solid stone. You brush away a stray wood shaving, letting it drift to the floor like a snowflake settling on a winter branch. It occurs to you that these materials, bamboo, camphor deer, antler rice paste, are all organic, chosen for their complementary properties and eco-friendly synergy long before sustainability was a buzzword. You imagine a modern sustainability consultant swooning over this design. As you rise, you secure a small sample of polished camphor wood in your satchel. Its rounded edges cool against your palm, a tactile token of the monastery's deepest secrets. In the distance, a gong sounds, signaling the hour of evening meditation. The reverberation courses through the timber rafters above and even traces down these hidden panels, proving once again that form and function were inseparable for Han artisans. You glance at the assembled materials around you, each plank joint and wedge a testament to human ingenuity under pressure. And as you slip back into the corridor's dim glow, you carry with you not just physical samples, but the knowledge that these materials of mystery were the silent heroes of a clandestine network, crafting hope into every grain of wood. You slip back into the faint glow of an unlit corridor, following the distant rhythm of hammer strikes echoing through the stone like an ancient metronome. Remember that dragon-glued joint we talked about? Well, tonight, you witness its birth. The carpentry workshop lies beyond a hidden panel, now slightly ajar, spilling warm amber light, and the low murmur of chant-like prayers into the hallway. You duck through the wood door, clicking shut behind you, sealing you into a world where time itself seems suspended between each measured tap. Inside, craftsmen and monks kneel on woven mats, their silhouettes dancing in the lamp glow. The lamps burn with a curious fuel-pressed fish oil mixed with pine resin and a few petals of night-blooming cereus, for scent a combination that fills the air with a smoky sweetness. Strange fact, very few outsiders know that this lamp concoction was considered more reliable than standard tallow, burning longer and warding off gnats that love tropical nights. You inhale deeply the aroma, a bizarre but soothing reminder that even in secrecy, sensory comfort matters. A master carpenter lifts his mallet and you hear the first precise thwack against a camphor plank. The sound ripples through the chamber, setting off a soft chorus of responses as hammers strike in unison, 6 craftsmen's 6 heartbeats, creating secret panels destined to vanish seamlessly into monastery walls. It's oddly mesmerizing, like an ASMR video gone rogue, but you resist the urge to pull out your phone and record no TikTok challenge here, buddy. Above, or in the previous part, you caught a glimpse of blueprint scrolls. Here those lines on silk have become reality. You watch as a slender bamboo chisel carves a mortise slot so exact it could hold a single rice grain without wobble. Monks around you chant a simple prayer, and peace, 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 their voices weaving with the hammering into a hypnotic lullaby. It feels like standing inside a drum while someone gently taps the rim, earthy, resonant, almost spiritual. You lean closer to inspect the joinery, noting the interplay of tangential grain cuts and reverse mortise locks. Historians still debate whether these midnight rituals were purely spiritual invocations for protection or a clever way to synchronize craftsmen's efforts through rhythmic prayer. Either way, the result is undeniable panels that open only when tapped in a precise sequence, as if the wall itself has a secret handshake. Your hand drifts to a workbench where a half-finished panel rests. Its surface bears intricate inlays of mother-of-pearl tiny cranes soaring above stylized waves. Only the most trusted eyes would recognize these as more than decoration. The cranes serve as a memory aid for the tapping code, each wing beat corresponding to a tap count. Few people know that the peels of metal chisels on camphor wood were sometimes mistaken for distant temple bells, a trick that disguised the real ritual under the guise of evening worship. You trace a crane's wing with your fingertip, feeling the smooth shell against your skin. Nearby, an apprentice fans a brazier embers while humming the tune of the Battle of Red Cliffs, that legendary clash in 208 CE, where fire ships turned the tide against Cao Cao's navy. You grin at the irony. This workshop is your own fire ships forging panels that could repel intruders without a single blade of fire. The humming apprentice stops mid-note and offers you a sly nod, as if sharing a private joke about ancient naval warfare. You step over a pile of wood shavings that resemble tiny golden curls. The carpenters didn't waste these. They used shavings soaked in camphor oil as tinder for clandestine fires or as scent pouches hidden in robes. It's another layer of ingenuity. Nothing goes unused when survival and secrecy depend on every scrap. You flick a shaving into the brazier, whoosh, a brief flare, then back to a steady glow. Budget cuts would kill modern YouTube channels, you muse, yet these monks repurpose everything better than any zero-waste influencer. A subtle shift in the chant catches your ear. Brother Liang has joined in his tenor, weaving with deeper baritone chords. The effect is uncanny hammering, chanting, breathing, all merging into a single living rhythm. You feel your pulse align with theirs. Your heartbeat softens to match the steady beat of wood meeting metal. It's comforting, like a lullaby, sung by 6 ghosts in sandalwood robes. The master carpenter sets down his mallet and reaches for a small lacquer pot. Inside is a paste made from ground pearls and crushed jade dust. Another secret, applying a whisper-thin coat over the inlaid panel, makes it shimmer under candlelight, turning the door invisible except to those who know where to look. You catch a glint on the edge of a panel as it shifts, disappearing into a painted frieze of cherry blossoms. Only after waiting do you realize it was never there on the initial glance. Nearby monks dip rice starch glue into a large wooden bowl and ladle it onto bamboo splines, gluing them into place for extra reinforcement. They murmur about using water from a sacred mountain spring said to imbue structures with resilience. Modern builders might scoff, but as you press the glued joint with your palm, feeling it swell into rock-solid solidity, you can't deny the effect. You imagine sending a video clip to a construction influencer, watch this ancient indie hack outlast your entire tool set. Footsteps echo from above the approach of a patrol, or perhaps the late-night librarian checking for misplaced scrolls. The workshop falls silent, save for the crackle of embers. A single monk gestures for you to keep still, and you crouch behind a stacked frame of bamboo poles. You hold your breath, and the world narrows to the hiss of a sliding panel and the distant drip of water from a hidden conduit. After a long moment, the footsteps fade, and you exhale so softly you almost forget you breathed. You stand dust off your knees and brush shavings from your sleeves. The midnight ritual has ended for now. Panels rest in their final form, ready to hide sacred texts or provide an escape route at a moment's notice. A lantern bearer quietly enters, refilling lamps with fresh fish oil blend, ensuring no sputter interrupts tomorrow's dawning ritual. You tip your head in gratitude, silently acknowledging the unsung heroes of night work. Stepping back into the corridor, you pause to let the rhythmic heartbeat of the workshop fade behind you. The air here is cooler, calmer, but still tinged with that lingering camphor sweetness. You can almost hear the distant echo of those midnight hammer strikes guiding you like a compass through darkness. And as you slip away, you carry with you the memory of that sacred cadence, a testament to human creativity and devotion, alive in every tap, every chant, every hidden panel, waiting in the shadows. You drop to your hands and knees, pressing your cheek against the cool earthen floor of the tunnel, and begin to crawl forward into pitch-black uncertainty. Above, or in the previous part, you witnessed the birth of secret panels. Now you're putting every hidden corridor to the ultimate test. Your lantern's weak glow barely reaches the next elbow length of passage, and the shudder of your breath sounds oddly loud, like someone whispering directly into your ear through a paper tube. Every scrape of your sleeve against the stone walls feels amplified, and you remind yourself not to think about how narrow it is, like wearing skinny jeans you can't quite get out of. The tunnel slopes gently downward, forcing you to angle your back so that your head nearly grazes the vaulted stone ceiling. You can taste the dust on your tongue, thick and chalky, as if you've been sipping chalk-flavored milk. Faint drips echo from somewhere ahead, each one a staccato note in this subterranean soundtrack. Strange fact, some carpenters smeared the floor with thin layers of crushed rice husk to muffle footsteps, a trick so effective that even trained guards would pass right over these tunnels without knowing they existed. As you press your palm against the ground, you feel the barely perceptible grain of those husks under your fingers, proof that innovation doesn't always look flashy. A sudden rumble underfoot makes you freeze mid-crawl. At first, you think it's an approaching army recalling the giant siege engines that crushed Luoyang's outer walls during the Battle of Hulao Pass in 190 CE, a popular event in Han military history. But this tiny quiver is just your heartbeat racing as you test the stability of the ceiling stones. You gently tap a loose flagstone with the butt of your lantern. It holds firm, no trap sprung. Relief washes over you like warm tea, and you quietly congratulate yourself. No hidden pitfall here. You pause at a T-junction where two narrow shafts intersect, the air current shifting as you bring your lantern to the crossroads. One passage heads left toward what you believe leads to the hidden bell tower. The other veers right toward the escape stairwell you tested earlier. In the dim flicker, the walls glisten where monks once applied a special lacquer made from rice bran and tung oil, giving the stone surfaces a faint waxy sheen. Few people know this lacquer also repelled mold and kept corridors dry for centuries, an all-in-one protective coating long before moisture barriers became a thing. You slide your hand along the wall's glossy patch, marveling at how these subterranean architects thought of everything. With a cautious inhale, you choose the left passage, squeezing your slimmer shoulder forward to avoid scraping the lantern. Your legs follow boots clicking against the stone just enough to send tiny pebbles skittering behind you. Every scrape and echo feels like a drum roll, heightening the suspense, like when you're watching a thriller and the soundtrack goes eerily quiet. You shift your lantern higher, revealing a set of shallow grooves carved into the wall, about waist-high test tracks for sliding panels. With a grin, you slide your forearm along one groove and feel the panel move inward by a fraction of an inch. Perfect alignment. You pause to check for hidden triggers. Remember that secret handshake tapping sequence? You rap lightly. 2 taps. Pause, 1 tap. Pause, then listen. A soft click follows, and a narrow slit appears at the wall's base, just wide enough to glimpse into the next chamber. You refrain from peeking. Treasure hunters would, but you're not here to spoil the surprise. Instead, you close the panel again and note the hinges' near silent grace. This isn't just craftsmanship. It's centuries of trial and error, distilled into a perfect mechanism. As you crawl deeper, a subtle breeze brushes against your cheek, carrying the faintest whiff of incense sandalwood mixed with a drop of cinnamon bark. It reminds you of the Han court's grand banquets where envoys from as far as Parthia marveled at China's spices and silks. The Silk Road's merchants traded exotic goods, but these monks traded in whispers and shadows. Historians still debate whether those trade routes inspired the architects to conceal supply corridors beneath monasteries, or if the monasteries simply mirrored the Silk Road's hidden way stations. Your lantern flickers and you jolt, fumbling to refuel the wick with camphor oil from a small bottle at your belt. The oil hisses as it soaks into the wick modern camping stoves could never. You seal the bottle and tuck it away, making mental note to acquire a sturdier latch for your own satchel. Ahead, the tunnel narrows even further, funneling down to barely a foot of headroom. You press forward, elbows brushing the rough stone legs dragging behind in a smooth, practiced motion. It's surprisingly meditative, like doing yoga in your fridge. At last, you reach a broader chamber, its ceiling rising to chest height. You sit back on your heels, dusting off your knees, and sweep your lantern around. The chamber houses 2 opposing doors, one solid stone, the other wood-grained. You test the stone door first, pressing a hidden lever carved into the adjacent pillar. It shudders, but remains steadfast, a decoy to fool intruders into thinking they've found the exit. You chuckle softly, a false hope trap, classic misdirection. Next, you approach the wooden door. Its grain matches the monastery's floorboards above so precisely you almost don't see it. You slide your shoulder along an invisible seam, and the door swings open silently into a spiral stair descending further into darkness. You listen for the creak of ancient wood, but there is none. those ingenious miniature wedges at work again. You almost applaud no stand quietly, so as not to crack the silence. Descending the spiral, you count each rounded step by tapping the stone with the tip of your boot 1, 2, 3, until you reach a low archway where a single draft of wind brushes across your forehead. This arch connects to a drainage channel originally designed for monsoon runoff, now repurposed as an emergency exit that leads into the monastery's fish pond courtyard. You press your ear to the wall. A koi bubbles at the pond's edge, its gentle plop sounding like nature's ASMR. Carefully, you slide your hand along the wall-mounted notches, a final security check, and feel the panel shift outward into a concealed hatch. You lift it and peer through a thin crack into the courtyard. Moonlight glints off rippling water lilies, and the koi swim lazily, completely oblivious to the secret drama unfolding below. You whisper, "Congrats, buddy, you just passed the ultimate escape test." Rising, you give the hatch a gentle push to close it, hearing the satisfying click of the mechanism sealing shut. Then with a final glance at the ebony water reflecting lantern light, you retrace your steps upward, mindful to replace every panel just as you found it. Each door, each hinge, each carved groove, everything snaps back into place, erasing all sign of your daring expedition. As you emerge back in the main corridor, you breathe deeply, the cool air feeling like a reward. You can almost feel the monastery relaxing around you, its secret veins tested and approved. The next morning, monks will walk these halls unaware that their hidden passages are more secure than ever. And you, of course, will have bragging rights quietly, lest you become the next legend whispered through these tunnels. In the hush, you pause to admire the silence broken only by the echo of your own heartbeat and the distant drip of water from a hidden conduit. You lean your lantern against the wall and let your eyes adjust. Then, with a satisfied smile, you whisper to the shadows, "Mission accomplished." You slip through a narrow slit behind a false library shelf and drop down a short ladder into a cavernous chamber whose ceilings soar high above, dripping with shadows that dance in your lantern's glow. The air here vibrates with the faint aftertaste of reverberation, like the lingering echo after your headphones unexpectedly blast a bass drop. You brush your palm along a moss-covered pillar, feeling the damp ridges carved by centuries of condensation. A hush blankets the hall, an expectant pause, as though the stone itself holds its breath, waiting for a signal. Ahead, you spot the concealed bell tower, a cluster of 3 bronze bells suspended from carved camphor wood beams, their surfaces mottled with verdigris and storied patina. The largest bell, nearly 6 feet tall, is adorned with embossed dragons circling its rim mouths, open as if about to roar. You step closer, toes crunching on a thin layer of dust mingled with stray incense ash, an odd perfume of sandalwood and aged earth. Strange fact, some artisans mixed ground cinnabar into the bronze alloy to give the bells a faint reddish hue. At dawn, a secret homage to the rising sun god revered by folk priests. You reach out and trace a fingernail along the bell's rim, producing a soft metallic whisper that quivers through the chamber like a shy ghost. It takes practice and a steady hand to coax the right tone. You imagine monks centuries ago sitting in lotus posture below, waiting for that exact note to know whether the imperial courier had arrived or if bandits had breached the northern pass. Popular event witnesses claim that in 125 CE, After Jiangheng unveiled his seismoscope, the tremor it detected coincided with a distant bell toll in Luoyang, alerting city officials to an earthquake hours before the ground shook underfoot. It's poetic, really, how sound traveled faster than seismic waves, proof that even in antiquity, information could race across the land. You lift a wooden mallet wrapped in silk thread and tap the medium-sized bell once pausing. As the sound rolls outward, swelling into the corners of the chamber, then receding like waves pulling back from the shore, above or in the previous part, you perfected the secret handshake on those hidden panels. Here, you're learning a symphony in code. One tap means all clear, 2 taps fast, and 1 slow means enemy at the east gate, and 3 slow strikes, followed by a pause, means assemble at the southern cloister. It's a low-tech Morse code carved in resonance. Your ears flush with warmth as the vibration seeps through your skull, a tactile ASMR experience no modern binaural mic could replicate. You can almost taste the grain of the bell's alloy on your tongue, bittersweet like dark chocolate with a hint of rosemary. You're careful not to overstrike. Ringing too long risks alerting the monks above prematurely. You pause, hand on the mallet shaft, and inhale the spicy camphor fumes rising from the rafters, mingling with the sulfurous tang of aged bronze. Historians still debate whether these bell towers were primarily intended as an alarm system or as a form of sacred ritual resonance, an eerie reminder that sound could both save lives and summon spirits. You feel the weight of that ambiguity as you test the largest bell, a single deliberate strike, and the chamber floods with a low, mournful drone that vibrates your chest like a heartbeat. You close your eyes, letting the tone wash over you, and imagine monks clasping their hands in prayer, their lips moving silently in thanks for the warning. A sudden drip from a leaky roofstone punctuates the music, a tiny percussion note so delicate it could be mistaken for a moth landing on a leaf. You open your eyes and catch sight of the smallest bell tucked in the corner like a timid child waiting its turn. You tap it lightly. The sound is higher-pitched, almost bell-like in the modern sense, slicing through the deeper tones like a bird song cutting through fog. It's the perfect complement, creating a 3-note chord that resonates in the chamber's natural acoustics. You pace around the bells, noting how the walls are fashioned with angled niches designed to channel each toll's vibration along hidden shafts, sending the signal miles through stone conduit to relay stations beneath neighboring temples. Only a few scholars know that these conduits double as natural amplifiers, drawing on the basalt's resonance frequency to carry sound further than open-air bells ever could. You press your ear to one of the niches and hear the distant echo of your own test, muffled but unmistakable, a confirmation that the network still works. Modern comparison. It's like streaming a live podcast through whisper-thin fiber optic cables, only these are carved into the earth, immune to storms and sabotage. You grin at the thought of data centers fussing over bandwidth when these monks harnessed geological acoustics 2 millennia ago. You give the bells one final tap in unison, large, medium, then small, creating the complete signal for gather immediately. You imagine hooded figures above racing through corridors, following the drumbeat of bronze to safety. Soft footsteps echo on the ladder you descended, and you recognize Brother Wen's familiar shuffle. He carries a carved wooden clapper, an emergency backup for lantern-dark nights. He winks as he passes you. No more trendy wristbands for signaling, hey, we have bells. You suppress a laugh and nod, letting him lead you toward the ladder. As you ascend, each rung creaks softly under your weight, a reminder that no mechanism remains silent forever. Back in the candlelit corridor, the belled code still hums in your senses, a low-frequency memory that lingers behind your eyes. You pause to let the intensity fade, then offer a brief salute to the hidden tower. These bronze giants may never face an invading army again, but their secret network endures steadfast beneath the monastery's foundation. And as you slip back into the main hall, passing unaware monks kneeling in meditation, you carry with you the thrill of sound made sacred and the weighty knowledge that even in darkness, a single bell's toll can ripple hope across miles of stone and shadow. You emerge from the bell chamber and slip back into the dim corridor torch, in hand eyes adjusting to the shifting light. The walls here are a tapestry of carvings, lotus blossoms unfurling in delicate relief. Fierce dragons coiled around stone pillars, their open jaws seeming poised to roar at any moment. You slide your fingertips across a dragon-scaled flank, feeling centuries-old grooves that guide your hand like braille. The air is cool and still, the only sound your breath and the faint crackle of the torch. Each lotus petal you pass is more than decoration. It's a waypoint in a cryptic map etched into stone. Few scholars realize these blooms mark direction changes. A flat-topped lotus means turn left, a curled petal means turn right, and a fully open flower means go straight. Strange fact, during a 1970s restoration, researchers found microscopic red pigment residues, probably cinnabar embedded in the flower centers, suggesting monks once highlighted these markers with secret inks that faded under normal light. You hold your torch low, watching for a faint crimson smudge at the heart of the next lotus carving. Above, or in the previous part, you've rattled bells and tested panels, but here you're navigating a silent code in stone. A sudden gust from a hidden vent ruffles your hair, carrying the sweet tang of incense remnant camphor smoke that clung to the cavern's ceiling beams. You bend closer to a lotus half-bloom and trace its petals, then crouch to follow a shallow groove that leads downward just wide enough for a single forefinger. It's like reading a secret script at a midnight horror show, thrilling, but you're relieved you're the only one here. As you creep forward, a low-relief dragon catches your eye. Its snout tilts upward, and its whiskers curl into the next panel's joint. You lean in and tap lightly on a two-pronged barb at the end of the whisker. One tap pause, two taps. A soft click echoes, proof the carving isn't mere ornament. It aligns the hidden panel's locking pin, allowing the joint to shift by a fraction of an inch. Your pulse paces to the rhythm of your taps, your heart drumming like distant gongs announcing a celestial parade. Strange fact, royal artisans once infused these dragon carvings with ground hematite, giving the scales a metallic sheen under torchlight, so only those in the know could spot the pattern to activate the mechanism. You squint, trying to catch a glint along the carved spine, and sure enough, a faint iron-red sparkle winks from beneath a polished scale. You press the scale forward, and a panel slides inward, revealing a narrow alcove just large enough for a rolled scroll or small object. Inside the alcove sits a tiny clay jar embossed with another lotus motif. You gently lift it and feel its weight lighter than you expect, as though half empty. Removing the stopper, you find a single slip of rice paper inscribed with characters in vermilion ink midao hidden passage. Beneath, a short zigzag arrow points in the opposite direction of your current path. You tuck the slip into your sleeve, curiosity sparking. Was this a clue left by monks who feared guards, or by bandits who wanted to mislead them? Historians still debate whether these hidden messages were devotional reminders or intentional red herrings. You press the panel closed behind you, careful to realign the dragon scale joint so it seals seamlessly. The corridor beyond branches into two shafts. One slopes upward toward the main cloister, the other dips further into the earth. You follow the vermilion arrow's cue and descend each lotus-carved marker, reinforcing your choice closed petal, signifying caution, open lotus, encouraging descent. The walls here are darker, the carvings more weathered, as though centuries of unseen feet have polished some petals to a glossy sheen. A low rumble resonates through the passage, likely rainwater trickling in from rooftop channels. But in moments like these, you imagine collapsing ceilings or flooding shafts. You brush dust from a dragon's tail and slip past a hidden latch, earning another reassuring click. The way is narrow, so you crouch low, brushing fingertips across each carving to stay oriented. In the gloom, the relief work seems almost alive, lotus petals, fluttering dragons writhing a secret carnival of stone. Halfway down the slope, you stumble upon something unexpected, a carved phrase in small seal script tucked beneath a lotus frieze. It reads, Zhen Yan Wu Sheng, true words are silent. A monk once told you that this was a mantra intended to remind travelers that the greatest teachings need no loud proclamation. You tuck your torch under an elbow and press your ear to the stone beside the inscription, listening for any echo, any sign of another hidden door. But all you hear is the distant drip of water. Modern comparison, it's like encountering an Easter egg in a video game, a secret tip from the developers concealed in plain sight. But this is real-world dusty corridors replacing digital landscapes, and the stakes are higher than unlocking a character's skin. Still, the thrill is the same. You've beaten the puzzle, uncovered the clue, and earned the right to move deeper. You follow the slope until you reach a small landing where a grand dragon carving spans the wall, its body arching over a lotus wreath. The composition is so artful, it feels ceremonial, as though the wall itself is a shrine. In the center of the wreath, you spot a barely perceptible indentation just big enough for a fingertip. You press lightly, and a section of the carving glides aside to reveal a hidden camera-like aperture. It frames a view of the corridor you passed earlier, functioning as an ancient spy hole. Peering through, you see the upper passage, empty good, no guards in sight. You share a quiet chuckle, imagining monks using this peephole to check for bandits before emerging from the tunnel's ancient CCTV at its finest. Strange fact, some of these spy holes were glazed with thin slices of translucent jade, protecting the viewer's eye from dust and damp. You lean in, brush the jade with a fingertip, and appreciate its cool, smooth surface. Satisfied, you withdraw and reseal the carving, sliding the dragon fragment back, flush with the lotus wreath. The wall looks untouched, innocent, even decorative to untrained eyes. You smile at the ingenuity of those artisans who hid instructions in their own art, trusting only the initiated to recognize the clues. As you turn to ascend the slope, you slip the vermilion slip into a hidden pocket within your satchel, knowing it may guide you later. Each carving you encountered, lotus dragon seal script, feels like a whispered conversation across centuries, an invitation to understand the silent language of stone. With one last glance at the path you carved, you raise your torch and retrace your steps, the carvings guiding you back toward the main chambers. Every petal you pass now feels like an old friend, every dragon a guardian of secrets. And as you slip back into the brighter corridors above, you carry a new layer of connection to the monastery's hidden heart proof that art in the hands of masters can become the map to truth. You squeeze through the low archway where the bell tower conduit once awakened your senses and duck into a slender side tunnel where the only illumination comes from a row of bamboo lamps set into shallow wall niches. Above, or in the previous part, you mapped lotus petals and dragon scales. Here, you follow these glowing nods like a makeshift breadcrumb trail. Each lamp is nothing more than a length of split bamboo hollowed to cradle a rag wick soaked in pressed fish oil and pine resin, yet together they slice through the darkness like silent wayfinders, guiding you deeper. The first lamp flickers, with a warm golden glow casting wavering shadows across the rough-hewn walls. You lean in, inhaling the smoky perfume of resin and salt water, a scent so peculiar it feels like stepping into a gourmet fish market at midnight. Strange fact, some master carpenters infuse their lamp oil with a drop of camphor tincture, believing the minty edge soothed anxious hearts and kept subterranean pests at bay. You can practically hear the mosquitoes reconsidering their life choices as you pass. Trailing your fingers along the cool bamboo frame, you note how each lamp is secured by a slender wooden peg carved to match the stone grain. Remove the peg, and the lamp drops out useful if you ever needed to carry a portable light for a secret midnight pilgrimage. A few monks jokingly call these sneak peeks, rather than sneak peeks, an inside pun lost on most, but enough to make you smirk as you haul the lamp upward. It's like finding a mini flashlight sleeve in a vintage camera bag, archaic, yet perfectly functional. You drift forward the wall-mounted lamps, spaced just far enough apart to keep you oriented without ruining the suspense. A modern comparison flashes in your mind. It's like using dim glow sticks to navigate a deserted warehouse. Rave, eerily intimate, oddly comforting, and best experienced with a quiet soundtrack humming in your ears. Here, though, the soundtrack is centuries-old mortar, gently settling, mingling with the whisper of your own breath. At the third lamp, you pause to inspect a tiny inscription carved beneath the lamp niche. Yu Guang Zhi Jing Path of the Faint Light. You run your thumbnail across the characters, feeling the subtle groove beneath the soot. Historians still debate whether these inscriptions were devotional mottos meant to calm fleeing monks or practical labels for engineering teams to verify lamp placements during renovations. You tuck the mystery away, letting it simmer like a forgotten tea leaf in a brewing pot. Beyond this point, the tunnel branches into 3 shafts, each marked by its own bamboo lamp. One sealed behind a lotus frieze, one wedged beneath a dragon's claw, and one hanging freely akin to a lantern at a seaside inn. You choose the free-hanging lamp, sliding it off its peg and carrying it forward so you can trace the next glyphs, a series of shallow notches in the stone indicating a gradual leftward slope. The lamp's light bounces off these marks, revealing them in soft relief as if the corridor itself wants you to keep going. Your boots scuff the smooth flagstones, and you can almost taste the dust chalky sharp like sipping an unsweetened rice porridge. A distant drip echoes through the chamber layer upon layer of water, carving silent symphonies into the stone. You raise the bamboo lamp higher, careful not to douse the wick in dust or poison the flame with sediment. One drop of oil too many, and you'd have fish, soup, chimney smoke filling the corridor, nightmarish for your eyes, comedic for any future archaeologist reading about it. You reach a juncture where the faint glow of lamps transitions to inlaid bamboo sconces overhead, arched supports designed to swivel, directing light along specific paths. Few people know these swivel sconces were originally adapted from boat lantern rigs used on the Yangtze, an ingenious cross-pollination of rivercraft and monastic architecture. The craftsmanship is exquisite, each sconce balanced on a pivot so perfectly you could spin it with a breath, then snap it back into place with a soft click. You give it a gentle nudge to test its range, watching the beam sweep across smooth walls like a vintage car's headlight searching for a country road. As you navigate past the swivel sconces, a soft rumble vibrates through the ground, probably a heavy monk descending the stairs above, or maybe the slow trickle of spring meltwater coursing through hidden channels. Either way, you feel the lamp's glow flicker in sympathy, reminding you that these lamps are more than decoration. They're active participants in the monastery's hush-hush operations. It's as if the very act of lighting one is an unspoken prayer for safe passage. Mid-tunnel, you encounter a partially collapsed section where centuries of sediment have washed in. A single lamp sits here, tilted at a jaunty angle, its bamboo skin split, but still holding oil. You steady yourself on a protruding stone lift the lamp and tip its contents into a small iron cup you carry for emergencies. The oil sloshes once, twice, then settles. With a pinch of charcoal from your tinder pouch, you relight your priority wick. Instant warmth returns the new flame, dancing like a phoenix reborn, proof that no amount of rubble can extinguish the ingenuity housed in these halls. Up ahead, the corridor widens into a cozy niche where a cluster of lamps hang overhead, their flickering flames refracting off a polished stone basin below. The basin once held water for extinguishing rogue sparks, but now serves as a mirror, doubling the lantern glow and illuminating a carved poem praising the humble glow of secret light. You lean forward, reading each verse as if the poet were standing beside you, whispering lines into the damp air. The rhythm of the poem feels almost like a lullaby for those who walk here after dark, calming frayed nerves as they edge toward the unknown. You snort, silently recalling the engineering fiasco last spring when a novice accidentally swapped camphor oil for wine, turning the lamps into rogue firebombs that singed a dozen polished panels. The monks still debate whether it was divine punishment for lax inventories or simply a case of someone having a rough Monday. Either way, the incident gave rise to a modern safety rule: always label your lamp oil larder. You tuck the warning into your memory vault alongside other oddities like never bring white silk into a candlelit forum. As you step past the poem basin, the lamps thin out, and you find yourself in near complete darkness, save for the faint glow at the tunnel's end. A final lamp perches atop a delicately carved stand, its bamboo curved into a stylized dragon that seems to breathe light. You pause, letting the glow wash over your face, then lift the lamp and cradle it like an offering. You know this last lamp marks the threshold to the hidden library vault, the next lofty goal in your nocturnal excursion. You hold the lamp close and inch forward, the warmth radiating into your palm as a steady guide through the darkness. Each niche and swiveled sconce you passed felt like a whispered promise, a map of light stitched into the stone. Now, as you step toward the vault-sealed door, you realize these bamboo lamp secrets were never just about visibility. They were about connection, linking every hidden space with a thread of warmth and care, reminding travelers that even in the bowels of the earth, a small glow can lead the way. And with that thought, you reach the vault's concealed latch lamp, held high, ready to illuminate the next chapter, buried within the monastery's secret heart. You pause at a branching corridor where the stone walls hum with whispered rumors rather than wind, and you can almost swear you hear the faint echo of polished boot tips that once belonged to the emperor himself. Legend has it that Emperor Ling of Han snuck away from the Forbidden City in 180 CE, donned a scholar's robe, and crept through these very tunnels on a secret pilgrimage to pray for his people's safety during the Yellow Turban Rebellion. You press your palm against the cool granite beside a carved, jade-inlaid panel, so smooth it feels like sliding your fingertip across a touchscreen, only more exclusive. A single lantern perched on a bamboo sconce casts tremulous light across a hidden mural depicting a crowned figure bowing before a lotus altar. You lean in to examine the painting's faded pigments. Crimson cinnabar, rare vermilion ground from vermin-bothered mines, and a hint of crushed azurite for celestial blues that shimmer under your breath. Strange fact, some court painters mix powdered pearl into their royal murals to give them an iridescent glow at dawn, so the emperor's image would literally radiate divine favor. You cup your hand above the mural and inhale the faint scent of aged lacquer, catching a whiff of ancient incense sandalwood spiced with just a hint of frankincense. As you step forward, the corridor narrows and the ceiling lowers, forcing you to bow slightly, nearly brushing the soot-blackened timbers overhead. You swallow, recalling the popular event of Emperor Ling's midnight exit from Luoyang rumor. Says he slipped past 3 palace gates unnoticed, distracting guards with a troupe of drunken acrobats parading through the courtyard. It sounds like something out of a prank video, but with higher stakes. Modern comparison, it's as if a world leader today joined a street festival incognito only to slip into a subway tunnel under the city for a solo subway ride. You can't help but smirk at the thought. Your boots click softly on flagstones burnished by centuries of footsteps, imperial, monastic, even marauders' boots at one point. You crouch beside a hidden niche where a bronze plaque is recessed into the wall. Its inscription, so worn you have to tilt your head sideways, reads, Zhi Zun Zhu Ji, Footprints of the Supreme. You trace the characters with a fingertip dipped in lantern soot, feeling the shallow engraving under your nail. Historians still debate whether this plaque commemorates an actual imperial visit or was installed later by monks seeking imperial favor, an ancient PR stunt to curry protection and tax exemptions. Ahead, the corridor bends sharply, and you steady yourself against a camphor wood railing carved with dragon motifs. The wood's grain ripples under your touch like water currents, and the aroma of minty camphor fills your nostrils, jolting your senses awake. You wonder if the emperor paused here, hand on the railing, listening to the distant chant of monks and the drip of water from the hidden aqueducts. Strange fact, some court records mention that Emperor Ling carried a small jade eye pendant that he pressed against secret keyholes to disguise his identity. No face ID or fingerprints, required just pure imperial bling, A low hum vibrates through the tunnel, probably the monastery's hidden heating system. But in moments like these, it feels like the palace's heartbeat echoing under the earth. You lean your ear to the wall, half expecting to hear the distant strains of court music. Instead, you catch only your own breath, shallow and steady, and the soft rustle of silk within your robe. It's a grounded reminder that you're a visitor to a tale that blends myth and mortar. You round another corner and catch sight of a curved archway partially sealed by a carved stone tablet. The tablet bears a relief portrait of a serene-looking man in imperial regalia crown, flanked by phoenix wings, robes bejeweled with gold thread. Below, an inscription reads, Sheng Xing Jidao, the way of the holy journey. You brush away centuries of dust with a sleeve, revealing subtle cracks that betray its fragility. You imagine the emperor pausing here, placing his hand on the stone, feeling the coolness seep through his silken sleeves, a tactile vow to protect the Dharma. As you step closer, your lantern light catches a hidden latch shaped like a miniature emperor's scepter. Pressing it releases a section of the tablet, revealing a secret compartment housing a jade token carved with the Han seal script, Huang Sovereign. You hold it up to the light. The green stone glints with internal depth like a forest pond capturing midday sun. Few people know that these imperial tokens were carried by envoys and could grant access to all levels of palace security, ancient VIP passes before plastic cards existed. You slip the token into your pocket, feeling its reassuring weight against your thigh. You continue onward, the passage gradually widening into a low-ceilinged gallery, where the walls are lined with bas-reliefs depicting scenes of the Silk Road, crossroads, camels laden with silk, Parthian archers trading secrets, and Han envoys offering jade mirrors in exchange for exotic spices. Historians still debate whether these reliefs were commissioned to boost the monastery's prestige or to memorize the empire's far-reaching influence in stone. You stare at a scene showing a camel caravan trudging past a lotus-bordered oasis toes, nearly brushing the turf depicted in low relief. The craftsmanship is so vivid, it feels like you could step into the mural and join the journey. A gentle breeze wafts through a concealed air vent echo of the hidden ventilation network, carrying a hint of frankincense, perhaps from an offering left in a niche centuries ago. You inhale deeply, letting the blended scents of wood spice and incense settle in your senses like a bespoke cologne. Modern comparison-serious perfumers could spend years trying to replicate this aroma. Here, it's free courtesy of monastic resourcefulness. At the far end of the gallery, a mock wall tilts outward, revealing another spiral stair, this one narrower, the steps carved directly into the rock. You descend cautiously, each footfall echoing as if the Emperor's spirit follows behind you, making sure his path remains clear. You tighten your grip on the lantern, its warmth radiating into your palm, and recall a strange folk tale. Some carpenters believe the Emperor's presence consecrated these tunnels, blessing them so that they would never flood or collapse. Whether true or myth, it's a comforting thought when you're 200 feet below ground. The stairwell deposits you in a small antechamber where a stone basin catches drips from the ceiling. A faint trickle resonates like distant prayer beads, reminding you of the night you first entered these tunnels, back when every echo felt like a warning. Now the water's drip feels like a steady heartbeat, proof that life pulses even here. You spot a carved inscription above the basin, Huang En Chang Kun Mei, the imperial grace endure. You run your fingers through the basin's cool water, a modern equivalent of splashing cold water on your face before a big presentation. As you straighten, you imagine the emperor himself drinking from these waters, his lips tasting the same mineral essence, his mind focused on safeguarding a realm torn by rebellion. You grip the lantern tighter, feeling a kinship across millennia, two travelers seeking direction in the dark. A soft rumble from above signals the monastery waking from its slumber monks, stirring for pre-dawn prayers. You squeeze between the carved pillars and climb a steep ladder, each rung a rung closer to the courtyard above. Emerging into the scent-laden air of the central cloister, you pause, lantern held aloft. The first light of dawn filters through latticed windows, painting the courtyard in gentle gold. You turn to look back at the blank wall behind you. The same stone that hid Emperor's footsteps, now camouflaging a world of secrets. You tuck the jade token and the Emperor's plaque into your robe, silent souvenirs from a journey unrecorded in official annals. And as you step forward, letting dawn's warmth wash over you, you carry with you the quiet thrill of having walked in imperial footsteps, proof that history's greatest figures have their own hidden paths, waiting for someone curious enough to follow. Descending through the spiraled stairwell, you emerge into a long torchlit gallery where the walls seem to hum with forgotten reverence. Here, legend says the emperor himself once tread these secret halls, his footsteps silent as a cat's an audacious pilgrimage undertaken in the dead of night to seek solace for a troubled realm. You feel a shiver crawl down your spine as you imagine his silken robes brushing against the camphor rails, the faint rustle echoing like a whisper in these cavernous corridors. The air is thick with sandalwood incense and the faint tang of candle smoke, a royal perfume no commoner would recognize. Yet here it lingers as a testament to imperial presence. You run your fingers along a dragon-carved balustrade worn smooth in places where many hands, perhaps even his, rested in contemplation. Strange fact, some court chronicles claim that Emperor Ling carried a miniature bronze mirror in his sleeve, using its reflection to inspect hidden keyholes without exposing his face, an elegant spy gadget centuries before modern espionage tools existed. You imagine him pausing beneath a lotus relief, lifting that mirror to examine the grooves for a secret lever eyes, wary of palace guards and rebel scouts alike. It's like picturing a world leader today slipping into a subway tunnel with a pocket mirror to avoid security cameras equal parts daring and absurd. Ahead, the corridor narrows into a vaulted passage where carved reliefs depict the Great Flood of 188 CE, one of Han China's most catastrophic deluges that forced engineers to build massive levees along the Yellow River. You can almost feel the spray of those ancient waters against your face, cold and relentless, as you trace the swirling waves etched into stone. The same monks who cataloged flood myths above crafted these images not merely as storytelling art, but as mnemonic devices to remind the emperor of nature's power and the fragile balance of governance. You press your palm to the relief feeling, centuries-old mineral dust give way under your touch. The torchlight dances across a low panel where the imperial seal once hung. Though the emblem itself is long gone, its outline remains a subtle depression in the stone, framed by cloud motifs. You half expect a phantom voice to murmur, "All hail the Son of Heaven," but instead hear only your own breath and the distant drip of water. Historians still debate Whether the emperor's passage was a genuine act of piety or a carefully staged demonstration to curry divine favor, political theater, disguised as spiritual retreat. Either way, the secrecy of his journey amplified his mystique, transforming these tunnels into sacrosanct veins under the monastery's foundation. You pause beneath a carved panel depicting a scholar holding aloft in our armillary sphere the device Zhang Heng unveiled in 132 CE to detect distant earthquakes. The sphere's delicate rings are captured in fine relief, each axis aligned with celestial meridians. You imagine the emperor studying this depiction, pondering how sound and motion travel unseen, just as he wished his presence to pass unnoticed through these halls. Modern comparison, it's as if satellite data were etched in stone, guiding secret operations with precision unfathomable to most. You smile at the thought of cloistered monks and imperial engineers sharing ideas across disciplines centuries ahead of their time. Further on, your torch reveals a recessed niche containing a carved stone basin filled with water, so still it mirrors the ceiling's flickering flames. Scholars claim that when the emperor paused here, he gazed into the basin to affirm his humility that a ruler's reflection should always be examined in stillness. You lean in, seeing your own face waver in the ripples, and for a moment wonder if you glimpse another figure behind you, perhaps the emperor's ghost, cautious and regal. Instead, you catch only the lantern's dance, reminding you that history often blends truth with illusion. The passage bends sharply, guiding you into a chamber whose ceiling is supported by bamboo-beamed rafters bound with silk cords dyed imperial yellow. You can practically taste the humidity mingled with safflower dye, a subtle nod to the dynasty's hue of authority. You stretch your hand above you, tracing the silk's faint strands, and marvel at the artisans who wove strength and symbolism into every joint. Strange fact, monks believed these silk bindings were blessed by court priests charged with protective rites so that the structure would withstand earthquakes, a practical blessing and a political statement rolled into one. A low drumbeat vibrates through the floorboards, likely the monastery's hidden heating system at work. But in your mind, it echoes the distant thunder of court drums announcing the emperor's arrival at ceremonial rites. You follow the vibration down into a shallow alcove where a single jade token lies embedded in stone, carved with the character Shu Longevity. Legend holds this token was dropped by the emperor as he hurried through a silent prayer for his own extended reign. You trace its edges, feeling the jade's polished chill, and imagine the urgency with which he must have moved an emperor on a secret errand, vulnerable yet determined. You continue through a carved archway into a vaulted gallery, decorated with murals of the Parthian delegation, recalling how Han envoys exchanged jade for horses in a 100 CE to acquire the famed heavenly horses. The brilliant reds and blues still shimmer under your torch, though centuries have dulled their luster. You imagine the emperor standing in awe before these scenes, appreciating the empire's reach and the debt owed to distant cultures, an enlightened ruler humbled by the world's vastness. Modern comparison, it's like a head of state touring a global expo, pausing to admire pavilions that celebrate international partnerships. As you press onward, the corridor climbs steadily, steps carved unevenly by countless feet, imperial, clerical, and common. Your boots click twice, pause, then click twice again, an unconscious echo of the bell code you learned earlier. You pause at a vantage point, a carved peephole hidden behind a lotus panel offering a secret view into the courtyard above. Through it, you see monks preparing dawn offerings, incense, tea, fresh fruit, completely unaware of the invisible sovereign who once watched over them. You peer for a heartbeat, feeling both voyeur and historian, then slide the panel closed with a deft finger. Re-entering the main staircase, you ascend into the cool dawn air of the central cloister. The first light of morning gilds the topmost beams, and you can almost smell the fresh dew on lotus leaves. You brush your cloak free of dust and tuck the jade longevity token into an inner pocket, a tangible relic of your imagined encounter with imperial footsteps. As you emerge into the courtyard, monks pause mid-bow, their prayers suspended in sunrise silence, oblivious to the invisible visitor who walked beneath their prayers centuries ago. You inhale deeply, savoring the crisp morning air, and smile at the silent legacy you've traced. History's most powerful figure may have slipped through here under the cover of darkness, but you, curious wanderer, have retraced his path in broad daylight, mapping secrets that whisper on every carved relief and polished stone. You slip back into the monastery's hushed underbelly, guided by the faint echo of your own bootsteps against ancient stone. Above, or in the previous part, you stood in the courtyard at dawn. Now you're drawn toward a discreet panel behind an old scripture cabinet, its camphor-wood grain warped ever so slightly by time. You press the hidden latch, almost instinctively, and feel the panel slide inward with a soft sigh, revealing a cramped niche barely large enough for you to squeeze through. The air inside is thick, redolent of aged parchment and camphor smoke, like finding a forgotten bookstore tucked behind a coffee shop. As you duck inside, the lantern light flickers over rows of narrow scroll cases carved into the wall. Each case is bound in dull red lacquer, the color dulled by centuries of dust. You reach for the nearest one and slide it out with a gentle pull, surprisingly smooth, as though the lacquer was treated with a whisper of beeswax. You tap the side of the case, and it opens with a muted click, releasing a small plume of dusty aroma that tickles your nostrils. Strange fact, some monks once mixed powdered cinnabar into their lacquer to create a subtle antiseptic property, protecting scrolls from mold and pests without anyone noticing. You inhale deeply, letting the tang of mercury-laced pigment and old paper swirl around your senses. Inside the case lies a single scroll, its silk wrapper brittle and pale as a moonlit wave. You unroll it carefully, fingertips grazing the first line of ink, charcoal black, but with a faint shimmer, where Crimean ink yaji was mixed with crushed pearls to commemorate sacred verses. You trace the characters, a mantra no ordinary monk would dare recite aloud. Popular event, this clandestine scripture likely originated around the time of the Council of Nanjing in 183 AE, when Buddhist leaders first codified key sutras to unify diverse sects. You smile at the irony, a unifying document so potent it had to be hidden in the shadows. You let the scroll unfurl further, and your lantern illuminates an illustration in the margin, an intricate line drawing of a deva descending from the clouds, its robes swirling in midair. The artist's strokes are so delicate you can almost feel the silk's texture under your palm. You press your cheek to the scroll, listening for a crack, but finding only the soft whisper of silk fibers stretching after centuries of confinement. It's like unwrapping a limited edition vintage poster without tearing the plastic delicacy rewarded. Behind it, another case holds a bundle of miniature scrolls, each tied with crimson thread. You pick up a bundle and untwist the knot, letting the threads slip through your fingers. Inside are hand-copied sutras, fragments of the Lotus Sutra, and portions of the Diamond Sutra passages that scholars once believed lost until the Dunhuang manuscripts surfaced in the 11th century. Strange fact legends say a stealthy monk spirited these scrolls away during the White Lotus Rebellion of 179 CE, an obscure uprising that threatened to topple regional monasteries and drive devout scribes underground. You imagine that monk heart pounding like a war drum, tucking each precious scroll beneath his robe before slipping through these very tunnels. A faint groan of shifting stone makes you freeze mid-breath. You press your back against the opposite wall, alert for any hint of movement above. Your heartbeat thrums against your chest like a restless fan riff in an ASMR track, soft but insistent. You remind yourself you've crawled through narrower passages and withstood darker moments, but discovering forbidden scrolls feels different, more intimate, more urgent. You spread the miniature scrolls across a low stone ledge, arranging them like tarot cards for a benediction reading. The worn silk wrappers bear tiny stamps in vermilion, each a seal of a different monastic lineage. You run your thumbnail over one southern sect, reads the imprint. Another shows a stylized pagoda, likely the Northern Enlightenment branch. Each seal hints at a clandestine handoff, thousands of miles of pilgrimage compressed into these tiny wrappings. It's like tracking open source code forks on GitHub, only older and far more analog. Leaning closer, you notice a draft seeping through a fissure in the wall, cold and slightly damp. The air shift carries a stray scent of incense, joss sticks burned long ago, their ashes carried here by hidden vents. You watch ash particles float in your lantern's beam like tiny nebulae, each a speck of devotion preserved in air. You cough softly, the sound muffled by layers of parchment and stone, and quip to yourself, best ASMR playlist ever. Dusty scrolls and ghost incense. Your lantern light catches a larger scroll rolled up at the back of the niche, its wrapper sealed with dark red wax, imprinted with an imperial dragon. You pause, incredulous, an imperial seal on contraband. You break the wax seal gingerly, half expecting alarm bells to toll. Instead, you unveil a masterfully rendered scroll bearing calligraphy so precise it might have been penned by the emperor's own court scribe. Historians still debate whether these scrolls were drafted under imperial commission or copied clandestinely to preserve texts banned under certain regimes. This very ambiguity has fueled centuries of tea-house arguments, complete with spilled jasmine tea and clattering porcelain cups. Unfurling the imperial scroll reveals a treatise on compassion interwoven with subtle passages criticizing corrupt officials, a brazen act of theological dissent. You imagine court eunuchs inspecting these verses, their fingers trembling over ink-stained thumbs, torn between loyalty to the throne and devotion to truth. It's like stumbling upon a leaked anonymous manifesto hidden inside your favorite novel, thrilling, subversive, and slightly scandalous. You tuck this imperial scroll beneath your arm and unroll one final parchment, a narrow strip inscribed with tiny musical notations. It's a liturgical chant, a melody lost to most, saved only here. You hum the notes softly, listening as they resonate against the chamber stone, creating an ethereal hum that vibrates behind your eyes. Strange fact, Ancient acousticians once carved hidden alcoves behind these manuscripts, so the sacred chant would echo back as a natural amplification, turning a whispered prayer into a soft chorus without chanting monks. You pinch your fingers over your lips to hush. The hum monastery acoustics are no place for public karaoke. Gathering the scrolls, you wrap them carefully in a clean linen cloth you carry for emergencies. Always be prepared, you remind yourself. You secure the bundle in your satchel's secret compartment, the fabric muffling any rustle. Then you press a hidden lever behind the scroll niche, and the wall slides shut with a reassuring click, sealing away these forbidden teachings once more. Emerging back into the cloister of hidden passages, you cradle your discoveries like a curator, carrying priceless artifacts. The corridor's walls seem to arch toward you, bearing witness to your find as though the stones themselves nod in silent approval. You pause to let the moment sink in. You've unearthed the monastery's deepest secret scrolls that monks risk their lives to protect, and imperial words that challenged authority. As you step forward, you feel the weight of the scrolls against your thigh, not just their physical heft, but the burden of knowledge and responsibility. Each case you opened, each parchment you touched, carried centuries of whispered devotion and courageous dissent. You can almost hear the distant quill scratching of a monk's last copy, breathing life into these texts before they vanished behind false panels. And as you continue deeper into the subterranean world, the lantern's light glows a little brighter, fueled by the power of revelation. You can't wait to see where these scrolls will lead you next. But for now, you savor the hush of the hidden chamber, the crackle of lantern wick, and the quiet triumph of bringing lost words back into the light. You pause in the corridor, letting the lantern's warmth settle back into your palm as you watch a team of scholarly archaeologists crouch beside a collapsed section of wall. Their brushes sweep away fine dust in delicate strokes, tiny clouds of ochre and gray that hang in the air before drifting to the stone floor. It feels like watching an ASMR video of ancient secrets being coaxed into the light, and you almost resist the urge to pull out your phone and record it. Almost. The lead scholar, Dr. May, taps her trowel gently against a protrudent brick, and it clicks in a way that reminds you of the secret panels you explored earlier. Here she whispers, voice soft as silk, we believe the passage was intentionally sealed in 1985 during the Northern Expedition. You swallow, picturing nationalist forces sweeping through China that year, scholars racing to hide precious relics from cannon fire and chaos. The team's lanterns cast a golden halo around their heads, as if each scholar is an enlightened pilgrim in their own right. You kneel beside them, brushing away a loose stone to reveal a carved lotus petal identical to the markers you navigated by before. The petal is worn and chipped at the tip, but unmistakable. Strange fact, during a 1930s survey, local villagers reported hearing faint chanting beneath the monastery, only to find tunnels sealed under rubble the next day, as if the ghost of the monks were still guarding their secrets. You tap the carving twice, pause, then once secret handshake recognized, triggering a faint rumble as a section of wall slides open by a few millimeters. A hush falls over the group. Dr. May shines her torch inside the narrow gap. Remarkable, she breathes, this corridor remained intact for a century. You slip inside the walls, crackling under your fingertips, sending tiny motes of dust into the air like suspended stars. The scholars follow their leather-bound notebooks, unfurling in the lantern glow pens, poised to capture every nuance. Above, or in the previous part, you discovered forbidden scrolls. Here, you witness their guardians as they lift centuries of silence. The passage opens onto a small vaulted chamber where fragments of plaster still cling to the walls, hinting at frescoes long faded. Dr. Chang leans in, whispering, "This style resembles the murals found in Dunhuang's Cave 17, uncovered in 1907 during Sir Aurel Stein's expedition. A thrill races through you. Stein's caravans, dusty bazaars, hidden libraries of the Silk Road, all converging in this quiet monastic vault. You step forward, brushing your lantern against a collapsed beam to illuminate the floor strewn with broken clay jars, the very vessels that once housed aromatic herbs. The scholars collect shards, placing them in padded trays. One picks up a fragment of a vermilion lacquered jar and holds it to the light. You can still see a faint dragon motif. These pigments, she murmurs, were imported from Sichuan. Trade routes you wouldn't expect beneath a secluded mountain monastery. Historians still debate whether these jars were storage for medicinal herbs or components of ritual mixtures, each shard balancing between science and superstition. The group moves deeper into the chamber, their movements intentional and reverent. You trail behind, listening to the soft scrape of brushes and the gentle hum of voices discussing joinery techniques and ink compositions. It's the sound of knowledge resurfacing, each whisper a tribute to the monks who engineered these halls. You inhale the earthy scent of disturbed soil and crushed plaster, a sensory reminder that history is as much in the air as it is in the stones. Dr. May holds up a small ceramic seal, its raised character still legible, Kong hidden. This, she says, turning it in her gloved finger, was the key to a subsidiary vault sealed in 157 CE when leader Zhang Lu fortified religious refuges across Sichuan during the War of the Eight Princes. You nod, picturing military camps, displaced pilgrims, and the desperate ingenuity that led them underground. You rub your thumb over the seal's character, closing your eyes to absorb the faint graininess under your skin. A gust drifts through a hairline crack above, carrying a whisper of camphor, a ghostly echo of the secret formula that once masked these corridors from intruders. You can almost taste it, minty, slightly medicinal, like rubbing vapor rub under your nose. You lean back, listening to the scholars debate mapping technologies, ground-penetrating radar versus traditional probing rods, and you marvel at how modern science complements ancient craft. From the far corner, a junior researcher calls out softly, "We've uncovered more scroll fragments." The group converges on a shallow niche where brittle pieces of silk and paper lie intertwined. You kneel beside them, gingerly lifting a fragment that bears a single character, Wu Nothingness. It's part of a Zen koan, likely stolen from the same set of scrolls you discovered. Historians still debate whether these koans were deliberately hidden to preserve them during anti-Buddhist edicts, or if they were stashed as contraband by wandering priests. The ambiguity hangs in the air like the dust motes, unresolved, yet compelling. You watch as the researchers piece together the fragments, aligning edges like puzzle masters. One aligns two pieces, and an illustration emerges, a solitary monk, meditating beneath a gnarled pine. The scene is rendered so softly you can almost hear the rustle of needles in a mountain breeze. You close your eyes and let your imagination add the sound, wind whispering through pines, a lone chant drifting from the temple above. A sudden murmur ripples through the group sunlight has found its way in. You glance at the entrance and see dawn's first pale rays cutting across the chamber floor, illuminating motes in a golden haze. It's a reminder that even hidden places bow to the sun's persistence. Dr. Chang exhales in wonder. We must document this before the light fades. She sets to work, measuring, photographing, recording measurements on her tablet, every detail destined for academic journals and preservation logs. You step aside, letting them work, and lean against the dusty wall. Your lantern's glow is no longer needed. The natural light suffuses the chamber, a silent benediction. You close your eyes, breathing deeply, the stone, plaster, clay, and air all mingling into one layered aroma. It's as if the monastery itself is exhaling relief at being rediscovered. Modern comparison, you think about urban explorers wandering abandoned subway stations with night vision cameras, thrill-seeking for Instagram clout. Here, the stakes are deeper. These scholars aren't chasing likes. They're chasing lineage, devotion, and the fragile threads that connect past to present. You offer a silent nod of respect to their quiet dedication. As the team packs up, carefully resealing shards in protective crates and rolling scroll fragments into archival tubes, you feel a pang of bittersweet farewell. The hidden passages will soon be boarded up again, cataloged and locked behind official seals known only to those with clearance and scholarly credentials. Yet you carry the memory of their discovery like a secret in your own heart, proof that the monastery's hidden veins still pulse with life. You cap your lantern and step back through the panel that the scholars will soon mark on their site maps. The mechanism slides shut behind you with a whisper, erasing the moment from plain sight. Above, or in the previous part, you've borne witness to silence broken and truths resurfaced. Now you rejoin the winding corridors alone, lantern once more, your sole companion. And as you retrace your steps toward the main hall, you feel the weight of continuity, the knowledge that hands long gone have guided new hands toward light, and that every rediscovery is a quiet act of resurrection. The whispers of brushes and the soft tap of trowels fade behind you, but their echo lingers in your bones, a reminder that these secret passageways will breathe again under curious fingertip. You pause in the westernmost tunnel lantern held aloft and feel the cool stone walls tremble ever so slightly under your touch, as though exhaling relief now that your long journey nears its close. Above, or in the previous part, you witnessed scholars coax ancient frescoes into sunlight. Now you stand alone amid silent craftsmanship, where every joint and panel whispers the legacy of Han Carpenters, whose hands shaped hope itself. Your fingertips trace a mortise so precisely cut, it seems carved by a god's straight edge rather than human tenon. Strange fact, some master joiners once hid tiny prayers within these mortises, inscribed on slivers of bamboo, no thicker than a coin's edge, only discoverable when panels shifted under moonlight. You lean forward, inhaling the camphor-laced air and recalling the popular event of the Terracotta Army's unearthing 2 centuries ago. Thousands of life-sized warriors, frozen in silent rows, guarding an emperor's tomb. You smile, imagining those clay soldiers stumbling blind into hidden corridors, if they had ever been tasked with defense. Remarkably unlike inert statues, these carpenters' creations remain alive, their genius resonating in every camphor plank and bamboo wedge. Your gaze drifts upward, catching sight of a concealed ceiling beam bound by silk cords that gleam faintly in your lantern's glow. You recall that those silk ties were dyed imperial yellow not merely for aesthetics, but as a signal of imperial patronage, proof that these passages were valued as highly as main halls and pagodas. You tap the beam lightly, and it responds with a hollow note, a final metronome marking the end of a long construction symphony. You step back into the main corridor footsteps, echoing with the confidence of someone who has mapped every twist and junction. Here, the walls bear lotus carvings more ornate than any you've seen, each petal layered with subtle reliefs depicting carpentry tools, chisels, mallets, awls. It's as if the artisans signed their work forging artwork out of architecture. Historians still debate whether these tool petals served as apprentice training guides or as eternal signatures of gratitude, but to you they feel like a quiet tribute, an enduring handshake across centuries between maker and maker. A final panel awaits a camphor wood door seamless with the corridor. You press the secret sequence 2 taps, pause 3 taps, and the door opens to reveal a low vaulted chamber, bathed in soft dawn light, filtering through a distant grate. The chamber houses a single wooden chest bound in brass and camphor strips. You lift the lid and find an assortment of original carpenter's tools, a bone-handled mallet, a bamboo dovetail jig, a miniature measuring rod carved from antler. Each tool bears initials in tiny seal script initials, now indecipherable. Yet their presence feels intimate, as if those artisans reached through time to hand you their instruments. You cradle the mallet in both hands, feeling its polished heft, and whisper your thanks to the anonymous craftsman whose quiet ingenuity built more than hidden passages. They built trust refuge and the very idea that knowledge could be preserved beneath the earth when kingdoms trembled above. The chamber's cool air carries the faint aroma of polished wood and incense, mingling like a final farewell. With slow reverence, you return each tool to its chest, close the lid, and hear the soft click of brass meeting wood, a last applause for centuries of craftsmanship. As you step away, the hidden door slides shut behind you, returning the chamber to its silent vigil. You stand in the corridor one last time, lanterns glow warming the walls, and realize that these secret halls are not merely a feat of engineering, but a testament to human resilience, that when empires rise and fall, ingenuity can carve out sanctuaries all its own. Final reflection. Now, as our journey winds down, feel your breath soften, each inhale drawing calm into your chest, like the gentle wash of evening light across a still pond. Each exhale letting go of the day's restless thoughts. Imagine yourself resting upon warm, smooth stone, the carved walls around you humming faintly with history's lullaby, as if centuries of whispered prayers have tucked you into an invisible cradle. Let the subtle scent of camphor and aged wood soothe your senses, a tender reminder that even the smallest crafted detail carries care and purpose. Allow your thoughts to drift like lantern embers, dancing upward, each glowing memory of hidden panels, secret maps, and silent bells rising into a tapestry of soft dreams. Trust that the ingenuity you've witnessed here, echoing through every hidden joint and secret corridor, will linger as a gentle hum in your mind, guiding you toward peace and wonder. Soon, the stone beneath you will fade into the gentle darkness as you close your eyes, carrying the artisan's legacy into your dreams, where whispered crafts and hidden passages still await your curious spirit. May the memory of this journey drift with you into slumber, wrapping you in comfort and calm, until dawn finds you renewed. Lullaby of hidden walls. Sleep now to the silent song of ancient beams, cradled by secrets carved in dreams. Let camphor's whisper guide your rest. In hidden halls you've known the best. Beneath the stone find gentle grace, and wake refreshed in morning's embrace. Good night.